Okay, thank you. We'll start the session. So yesterday, yeah, hi. So in our yesterday class, we discussed about the topics which we have dealt with on both planning as well as consolidation, which is security, which is used both in planning as well as consolidation part. And yesterday when we are discussing, we discussed about the work status also, which is relevant for both planning as well as consolidation. And both are having some configuration to be done at environment level and some configuration at model level. And then the next topic is business process flows. These are majorly driven by model specific, because when we are defining a process, generally what we'll do, we'll define a process flow for one planning scenario as a whole. So and whenever we are working on any process flow, generally business process flow, it will be for, say, for revenue planning, for expense planning, either cost center planning or capex planning. Like that, generally people will define one process flow for one particular process. For those purposes, we use in BPC a concept called business process flows, which is very important concept. Generally, in normal situations without BPFs, what client will do? Client will start the budgeting process, and then the templates will be distributed to so many individuals. They will be sending the data in their Excel formats, and one budget team will be doing the consolidation of all those things. And we don't know which department has not submitted their budget details. Sometimes we will be forgetting some people needs to be worked on that particular template and then send it to us. Later on we will realize that that particular department has not submitted. So all these issues will happen, and sometimes there will be dependency unless the other person has completed his job, the next person cannot complete. And as a manager, I don't know where the process has been struck up and all. So those challenges are being faced by manual process in normal budgeting scenarios or consolidation scenarios also. So to avoid those situations, SAP BPC has come up with business process flows, where we will define the process flow. That means for each process, what are all the steps involved, we will design. Along with sitting with the client, we will specify for each particular step who is the person who can perform this step, and if there is a reviewer required for this particular step or not. Generally, sometimes what happens, the activity needs to be performed by individual, and that is not required to, at each step level review is not required. After 3 steps completion, there might be a reviewer requirement. So at that point of time only we'll keep the reviewer. So according to the requirement of the client and taking the BPC business process also into consideration, we will define the business process flows. What is the advantage to the client is, the process flow is defined, and for each step we are defining who is the person who is responsible to perform that step, and if there is a reviewer, who is the person reviewing that particular step. Unless step 1 is completed, the step 2 person cannot log in and do his activities. In this way we are controlling the dependencies. Anything is there, we are controlling it through a process flow. And as a manager, once I see into the process, I can know which step the process has been stopped and who is the person responsible to complete that process step. So I can directly contact him and I can say, complete this step and what is his problem and all. Those can be sorted out and the process flow can go on smoothly. That is another thing. And third thing is, at each process step, a notification will be sent to the person who is reviewing the data that your person has submitted the data, you can approve or reject. Like that, and email notifications will be triggered. Unlike your normal ECC system, BPF is also linked to normal Outlook mail only, so that At any way, he will be daily looking into Outlook mails, which the company Outlook, so he can easily get the mail that your person responsible has been submitted to for the approval process and all. Like that, you will get a process flow related information as well as the next step which he need to perform. And when he logs in into the screen, he can see what are all the list of activities that particular user is responsible to perform. So the individual will not miss what are all the steps he is responsible to perform in an organization. Sometimes some persons might be responsible for 3 or 4 budget areas. So if we are not giving the activities which he is responsible, then he might be able to miss some of the activities. But in BPC, we can specify what are all the activities he is responsible for, and he can log in into the activity screen and he can see what are all the list of activities he needs to perform. So all those things will be combined into business process flows. For business process flows also, first we will discuss how to customize a business process flow, and then we will go and see how the execution will happen when we are approving and rejecting, how the system will work. In order to create a business process flow, we need to create the process template. Process template is nothing but designing the process. So when we are designing the process, we will have the steps involved in that process. I'll just put these as suspended. I'll create new template. So I'm removing the old one. So first step is creation of a template. When you are creating the template, there you will define all the setup required for carrying out a business process flow. We'll go and see what are all the steps involved. Press on the new. Give the process name. Say budget underscore process. This is the name of the process which we are keeping. Generally in live scenarios, people will have revenue budgeting, capex budgeting, opex budgeting, project cost budgeting, inventory budgeting. So we'll create revenue planning and expense planning process, like that we will create. But here for our understanding purpose, I just use the business process or budget process. And there is something called models and dimensions. What is a model means, as I said, when we are doing the process designing, we will be generally designing each process to a particular model. For revenue model, how people will start inputting and how the entire data will be get calculated and posted to the different revenue GL accounts. That is the objective. So generally at any point of time, one business process flow will be linked to one model. One financial model, what I am saying is one financial model. So at present I am working in training underscore model. And here there is something called dimensions. What is dimension here refers to is, when I am creating this template, I have created the template for single use. It is not restricted to one model. We can create multiple models also, because inside when we are creating the steps, it is not restricting the steps where it is restricted only to a particular model. But as a standard practice, people will follow this methodology to avoid the confusions. Here just it will refer, but inside you can attach it to other modules also. So here the dimension we are saying time dimension. Why we are saying this as a dimension which is attached to this model is, whenever I am triggering, suppose this template is created for once, and this template needs to be triggered for each month on month or on a quarterly or on a half yearly basis, depending upon the client budgeting process or consolidation process. So when I am defining it on month wise, how the system will identify a new month needs to be selected for the process. So in order to know that, system has given a time dimension as a distinct identifier where the instance will be created. Instance is nothing but each process run for a particular template. Suppose I am doing, say, January consolidation, then I should know that this time period consolidation, this process is triggering for January period consolidation. So how we are distinguishing? Through a period. And February you will have another consolidation run. March you will have another consolidation run. Like that, each process will be triggered on a monthly basis or quarterly basis or on a half yearly basis or yearly basis. So in order to identify that, we will be defining time. If you see here, the time dimension is in the grayed out mode. That is, by default, it is attached to the time period. Along with time, you can add any other dimension also part of the instance creation. Suppose sometimes what happens, I am doing monthly forecasting as well as monthly planning also. Then if I keep only time, then I can run this process only for one time for a particular month. And I can run it for either actual category or plan category or forecasted category only, but not individually with the combination of time. So if you want to trigger for plan January 2015 and then actual January 2015 and then budget January 2015, like that you want to segregate it. Then you have to keep other dimensions also which is part of this particular process run, which is a distinct identifier. And then process monitor. This is the user ID through which you can monitor this entire process. Generally, for revenue process, if we take revenue budgeting, we will see who is the person responsible for this entire process in the client place, and we will assign that option to that particular individual. At present I am saying Sai user ID. So what is the advantage of this particular person is, he can monitor who is the person responsible and what area we have been struck up, all the list of activities, he can able to see it in a monitor kind of a screen. And once the process is completed, this person can go ahead and complete the process through a step called finalization of the process. That process completion also will be done by this particular individual, or if you are giving team, then the persons who are responsible in the team will get this particular access. So that is how we will define the process settings which is applicable for this particular process. And then next screen is activities. So whatever we have defined is, we have defined which model we are running the process and on which conditions we are running, time period and category, and who is the person who can see this entire process and finalize this process. And then activities is nothing but the steps that you are going to perform in a process flow. So we'll create some dummy 4 steps and we'll see how the system will execute these steps from the person who is responsible to perform the activity and from the reviewer activity screen, how the system will display these activities. The creation of the steps is only for dummy information, but in actual scenario you will be seeing the actual scenario steps which is provided by your client. So first step I'll just put data upload. this is for our understanding, so I am using some steps to identify 3 or 4 steps. Instruction is nothing but a description kind of a thing. And here, this is very important, what is called driving dimension. Driving dimension is nothing but the dimension based on which your entire process is being driven. Suppose my revenue process is based on entity wise. Then entity dimension will become my driving dimension. That means for China entity, who is the responsible person? For Australia entity, who is the responsible person? So for each entity, I need to know who is the person who is performing the activity and who is the person who is approving the activity. So these two dimensions should be defined against a particular dimension. Only that dimension can be used as a driving dimension. And where we will create this owner and approver property, whichever is the area at which level you are doing the planning. Generally for China, people sitting in China will be responsible for doing the planning of China related activities. So my distinguishing dimension with respect to the activity split is based on the entity. That is why I am taking entity. Some people will be doing by cost center level. Then cost center will become their driving dimension, because at each cost center level you have a person who is performing the activity for that particular cost center and who is approving for that particular cost center. So depending upon the client planning needs, we have to select dimension, driving dimension accordingly. So in our example, I am selecting entity dimension. Once you selected anything as a driving dimension, it should have two properties. One is owner and one is reviewer. Since I have selected entity as my driving dimension, I need to maintain two properties. See here, see there is two properties, one is owner and another is reviewer. Owner is nothing but who is performing the activity. This is the person who is performing the activity. The reviewer is nothing but who is the person reviewing or approving this particular step. As I said, I am planning based on my entity. So for each entity, I should have a person who is responsible to perform the activity and who is the person responsible to review this particular activity. So for my Australia region, I have Krishna as owner and China, Krishna as owner and reviewer is Sai user ID. So I am logging with Krishna user ID in order to see how the activities will be seen in the owner screen. Owner is nothing but performer, and in the reviewer screen how he can approve or reject. Now go back to our screen. We have selected driver dimensions and we have to say for which members this process is applicable. When we are working in live scenario, what happens? For each of the member we will be having this particular process flow. But here for our understanding purpose, in order to understand the concept, we are using only Asia Pacific region. But when you are working in live environment, you will select total world because you want to trigger it for all entities. So at present, for our understanding, I am taking Asia Pacific region, which is having two entities. If I take all the entities, then for each step it requires those many persons to complete the activities. And then here there is something called performer. As I said, performer is the person who is performing the activity. So in this particular template, we have to select in which property you are maintaining the performer related activities. So in my entity dimension, I maintained in owner property. So select the property where I maintain the name of the performer in the owner. Now if you see here, the require reviewer checkbox is there. If we select this, then it will ask which is the property which is having the reviewer values. I can select reviewer. If you deselect this checkbox, then for this particular first step, I don't require a reviewer at all. Like that, the reviewer property is not mandatory, but owner property is mandatory. Reviewer, we can keep it wherever it is necessary. Kamlesh is having question. So owner from entity model is used for two purposes, one for workflow and second for work status. Kamlesh, as we said, we are using the work status also based on the entity concept. Suppose, for example, instead of entity, we are using say cost center here. We are having entity also, cost center also, but our business process flow is based on cost center. Then I cannot use the entity dimension owner property which I used in work status here. So whichever you are choosing as a driver dimension, that should have both the properties here, and for work status it is only one property. Yes, we have to define here the dimension, and then automatically for this dimension you should have to maintain the owner and reviewer properties which you are selecting here. And it need not be a dimension which is used for work status. It can be a different one also. Practically it can be possible. Yeah, work status is different thing, BPF is a different thing. So that is what I am saying. Work status is used to just log the data and through process flow. But here we are creating the process steps. That is a workflow and this is a process flow. Both are different. Yeah. Then opening criteria. What is opening criteria means? Here we are having two things. One is all criteria and another is matched criteria. What is the difference? Suppose in step 1, I am having, so as per our example, I am having Australia and China activities needs to be performed. And step 2 also, I have same entities to perform the activities, Australia and China. If I select all criteria, then this one should be completed, this one should be completed, then only I can go for step 2. If I use matched criteria, then I have completed this, I have not completed this. Still, this particular sub-step can be performed without depending on this particular sub-step. Once this is done, then he can go and perform this particular step when I use the matched criteria. When I use matched criteria, what it will do? It will not stop me to go to the next step for this particular region which has completed step 1. So in live scenarios, generally if we are having say 20 entities, 30 entities where different people are responsible for different activities and which is not interlinked, then Australia entity people need not wait till the China entity people completes their step 1. Otherwise it is stopping for the Australian entity people also to come to wait for the other people's mistake. So for those kind of wherever there is no dependency on the previous step, or wherever there is no dependency on the previous entities which are part of the members of the driving dimension, we use matched concept. So once he completes the step 1, he can directly go and open the step 2. So for this particular step, we'll use matched concept, and the next step we'll use all concept. Then we'll see the differences when it works. When we seeing the live demo, we can see how it works in the matched scenario and how it works in the all scenario. Then the next is allow reopen. What is allow reopen means? As we are discussing, when we want to go in the process, we are going by step 1, 2, 3, 4 like this. Suppose in the 5th step, I found out there is a mistake happened in the 2nd step. Then I cannot directly go into the second step. Then I need to create these steps as reopen steps. This should be selected as reopen. Then first I will reopen 4th, then reopen 3rd, and then reopen 2, and then again same process. Complete step 2, step 3, step 4, and then step 5. So when you are discussing with your client, you should discuss what are all the steps that are allowed to reopen. Sometimes what client will say is, you should not allow to reopen any steps once it is completed. Those steps you should not choose allow reopen. Other steps generally will use the reopen, because at that point of time we don't know whether they want to edit or manipulate some data when they are processed into the next steps. So for this particular step we will not use. For 2nd and 3rd step we will use, and we will see how it will work. So this is basically Hari is having a question, are the activities setting step specific? No, activity means each step in a process flow. Suppose if you take a consolidation scenario, first step is uploading the data from either BW system or flat file, and then putting the trial balance, and then balance carry forward run, and then currency conversion run, and then doing the elimination activities, and then posting any adjustment journals, and then doing the consolidation of investment. So suppose this is a consolidation process. So for each step we need to perform some activity like data, trial balance, data load. Nothing but data import into the BPC system. There are two activities in that. One is flat file data load, which is non-SAP systems, and another is the BW data load, which is from SAP systems. So like that each step we create, and for each activity we will have a separate thing which we need to perform. So we need to attach what we need to perform to this particular step. That is the place where we create the workspaces. Steps are not above activities. Each activity we are creating here will be a step. Nothing but collective of steps, you can call it as activities screen. Okay. So with respect to data load, so if we give the step name like this, the user doesn't know what he need to perform. And sometimes we might be creating so many packages also, and user doesn't know which package need to run and which input template he need to log in and work on. Because suppose in a live scenario you have created 60 or 70 templates. Out of that, which template user has to log in and work for this particular process, he might not be knowing that. So in this we are creating that workspace for the performer. And if the reviewer is identified, if you selected reviewer as checkbox, then this will not be grayed out. This will also allow you to create a reviewer screen. Since it is not selected, it is in the grayed out mode. In the second step, we will select and then we'll create a reviewer workspace also separately. So in this particular step 1, we'll create performer related workspace. Create. If you remember, when we are talking in our second class, we discussed about the web reporting, web template and workspace. This is something similar to that, which we are creating as a workspace for this particular step. So in this step, what are all the activities you need to perform? That has to be created as a workspace for the end user. So when he logs in, he can see what are all the activities that are required to be done in this particular step, one by one. Now, the data load is happening in the Excel part, not in the web part. So the data load should be attached to a Excel related thing. When we click on the data load in the EPM, the data load pop-up will ask you which file you want to upload. So that is a hyperlink which we are giving. So use the add hyperlink option. Here you are having 3 options to load something into the BPC system. One is add hyperlinks, add new report and add content. Add hyperlinks is when you are connecting it to Excel related activities like data load, data upload, Microsoft Excel input template, report, and then add new report means web report or input template, web input template or report, whichever you have created already. Add content means directly you are creating web input template or report in the workspace itself. So these are the 3 options you can use in creating this particular step related workspace. So add content means creating a web report or input template directly in the workspace itself. Add new report means whichever already created in your web input template or report, you can like browse and bring it here into this workspace. Add hyperlink means when you are connecting it to the activities in Excel, you can use add hyperlinks, and using the save, you can save this particular step 1 related workspace. So for this particular step, data load, we are using the Excel. So that is why we use add hyperlinks. Give the hyperlink name which will be displayed to the user. Data upload. When we say data upload, we need to select what activity he need to perform. So if you select here, it will display all the Excel related activities. Consolidation, Microsoft Excel, Data Manager, Word, PowerPoint, Library, which we have discussed, work status and comments. And then audit and external resources also. Now, data upload is part of Data Manager section. So select Data Manager. So when you are defining this, you need to have an idea what is there in which area, EPM area, what is there, and Data Manager area, what is there. So in Data Manager area, what is the activity I need to do? I need to data upload. So select that particular thing. System will automatically select the target context. How this target context is directly routing it to training model? Because in our process setting screens, we selected this model is linked to training model, and we said dimension is time period is linked. And here it will display all the dimensions. When you are opening this particular step, if you want to use the workspace related context, that means whatever is there in this selection criteria it needs to display, or you want to display by default any value there where it will display the by default value and you can change it according to your requirement. So at present I am leaving this as workspace context related. And then when you load the data, when you upload the data, what is the related activity you will perform? So you have to think what are all the activities in a data upload. Once we upload, we can preview the data, whether the data uploaded has been properly taken or not. So the related action, you can keep it as edit, new, select, and rename the related action to preview data. So select the activity. So preview data is also part of data manager, and select in the data manager what activity I need to select as a related action. It is data preview. Press OK. Now we have created the action which we need to perform, that is data upload, and we have created what is the relevant related action after uploading the data. And if you see here, it is still showing in the editing screen. Once you select stop editing and validate, it will show you a checkbox here that it has been properly validated. Press validate. Now the checkbox is showing green. That means it is successfully validated and you have created the target action and related action properly. Now you can stop editing. Now this one has been completed. Once it is completed, you can use save button. Now the workspace has been saved. Sometimes here the hyperlink shows hyperlinks. If you want to rename this hyperlink also as a data upload when it appears to the end user, select this particular box, rename it to the same data upload. Again save. Now the workspace has been saved for step 1. Now close. Now we have completed step 1. Once we have made our step, now it is showing edit button. Previously it is showing create button. Like this it is showing create button. Since we have created, now it will show edit button. Reset to empty means whatever we have created, everything will become blank and it will automatically show the create button. Now I'll go into the next step. So data import. This is just I am taking few example steps. Data import also you have to select which is the driving dimension. Why they are giving step by step option to select driving dimension and members is sometimes some of the steps are not relevant for some of the entities. Suppose say data import is, suppose if I am creating data import from flat file and data import from ECC systems. So flat file will not be required for ECC system related data loads. So at that point of time, the selection should be only those entities which are responsible to take the flat file data, and the next step only those entities which is responsible to load from ECC system. So based on that you have to select it properly. So in my example I am taking the same thing. but SAP has provided that option. So you can use that option and you can design your process effectively. Here also performer. Today's system is little slow. In this particular step, I select require reviewer and I will select the reviewer. And in this step, I will select all criteria and I will select allow reopen option. And then in the performer screen, now if you see the reviewer screen, it is in the active status. Why? Because we selected require reviewer. Press create. Now data import is also through Excel only. So I am putting add hyperlink, import data. Import data also part of data manager section. So I am selecting data manager. So import package is not outside the data manager. For import package, you need to go to the run package. So here also go to run specific package. So I am having, there are nearly 10 to 15 data manager packages are there in the data management section. So which package he need to run, I have to specify. Browse. So what I am doing is I am making the life of the end user very simple. He need not search what are the data manager package he need to trigger or what input templates he need to log in. All those things will not be there. He can directly use this and he can log in into that particular thing. Data management. CPMB import. Yes. Okay. System automatically takes the import package which we have provided in the group data management section. So once we imported the data, what is the related activity we'll see? We'll see the package status. Go to edit. What is the related action? View package status. Package status also from data manager section. View package status. Press OK. Now validate. You can change the name of the hyperlink. Once it is done, save the template. So data manager, data input is also saved. Close this. Now, after performer has performed, reviewer has to review the activity. So when we are giving to the reviewer, generally we will give at a summarized level what is the report and all. Here generally for data import and all we will not have reviewer facility in live scenario, but here in order to discuss the different options we are creating it. So when we are creating a reviewer section also, we can create a separate workspace or we can use the same workspace created for the performer. First we will see for this particular step separate workspace, and next step we will use the same as performer. Create. Then I'll just use the template which is already created if any is there. I'll create a template directly here. So I'll just say entity and then time period. Here there is some problem with this Krishna underscore 2014, that is why it is not working. Once you are done with this, you can add your chart also if you require. From the reviewer perspective, you can show the chart as well as the template, which we have already discussed how to add chart and all. Finish editing and then rename data. So once the reviewer screen is also completed, you can save the template for reviewer. Now step 2 also complete. Now go to step 3. Dinesh is having question, what is data manager package? Dinesh, previously we discussed 2 classes before how to load the data, how to load master data, transaction data, that is using the data manager packages. And Dinesh is having question, are we automating the steps except review? I did not get you what you are saying automating the steps means, but we are creating the process and we are defining for each process what is the step he need to take. Just a minute. Dinesh is saying, what I mean is if the steps will be performed automatically or manually. No, the steps has to be performed manually. How the system knows how to which data file you want to load and which activities you want to perform, what data you want to input if there is an input template. It is not automated. We are automating the steps only. and for each step we are assigning one template or one activity, but inside what he has to do, it has to be done manually only. There is no automation of that. Now we will say data load, data import, and then just we will say input data. It's only for some input data. And here also you have to select for which activities you are inputting data. For entity dimension, performer, owner, and I will also select require reviewer. Performer screen. I will add an Excel input template. So data input. So now I am using a data input template through Excel. Previously I used add new report option directly to create, but now I am using an Excel option. That is why I am using add hyperlink. In Excel, where I will store I'll store in the specific input form. So open specific input form and select which input form you need to open. So what you are doing is you are linking the input form also to the steps, so user need not worry about what is the input form he need to log in and work on. So suppose this is the template which I am logging in. Now, as I said, I can specify what is the default value it should appear when I am opening this template. So what I will say, I will select reporting currency as euro. And I want product A to be displayed. So after that, what is the related activity you will do? You will save the data. Why we create related activities? Just to provide information to the end user. This is the activity you need to perform after this particular data load or data input. Save data. Save data is part of Excel. Previously I am selecting data manager, now it is Excel area, so I am selecting Excel. Save active workbook or worksheet, whatever you want. Now once it is done, you can validate, stop editing. Data input. Once you are done, save the and save the template. Now I have created third step with input data. And then in this particular step, I will say that reviewer also sees the same template, same as performer, just to show how it will work. In this particular step, I will use all criteria in order to show the difference. And I will allow you to reopen this particular step. And fourth step, I'll just say report. We'll attach one report. What we will give one specific report. Okay, and then save. Validate and save. Sorry. and save. Now come here and in reviewer screen, so add hyperlink, say work status. So now I am linking my BPC work status with my BPF as a step. Set work status. Okay. Validate. Stop. Now save. Now I have created a process flow with 4 steps, and where I am using the different options that are possible, and I am using this 4 steps to explain the different steps and what it does and how it will work. Once everything is completed, use save button. Now the template has been created. Close this. Now, as I said, we have just created the template. Now if you see here, refresh. By default it is in the draft status. Draft status means still it has not been used by the end users. So when it is in the draft status, you have every right to delete, edit or anything which you can do. Now if you select this, go to activities. Now you have the edit option. Now the same way, once this is in the deployed status means ready to use by the end user. So I am selecting deployed. Once you deploy it, now you cannot delete it. You cannot delete it. You can only archive it. Select activities. Now see the difference. You can only view. Once it is deployed to the end users, you cannot delete, you cannot edit the template. It is only the view. Deployed means it is given for the end users to start working. Once this template is in the deployed status, then only I can create the instance. Instance is nothing but occurrence of an event. That means for this particular time period, for this category, we are opening the budget process. That is what instance says. Once you trigger the instance, an automatic email will be flown to all the respective owners and reviewers stating that the budget process has been started and you can start working on the system. For that purpose, we create instance. So when we create instance, this instance creation will be done by the IT super user or from a budget section who is managing the budgets. They will start the instance. So when you create a new instance, system will show you all the processes that are available. At present we have created only one. If you have created revenue, expense, capex, P&L like this, all the things it will show. And you have to select which process you want to trigger now. You can select and trigger. So before triggering, I have created myself as a owner, Krishna user ID. So if I go to my home screen, yeah, Hari is asking a question. So unless it is deployed, it is not executable. Yes, Hari. That is why it is allowing you to edit the process template. So once it is deployed, it means only view. Now go to my activities. Now if you see here, it is not showing any activities which I need to perform, because even though the template is created, it is not created an instance on that. Once instance is created, then only you can see the activities which you are responsible. Now I'll create an instance and then we'll see the activity screen which will display the activities I need to perform. Select the process, all the steps. Now here, this is the person who can able to finalize this instance. We have selected Sai user ID, so we have to select that person. If you have selected multiple user IDs, then you can select for this process who is the responsible person. Since we selected one, we can only select one user ID. Now it is asking the context for which the instance should be triggered, which we have created as a process activity. What we said, we have selected category and time dimension. So for actual or for plan. So say select 2015 Jan. Next. System will ask you to check the assignments. Who is the performer, who is the reviewer. Why system is asking to check the performer and reviewer at the time of instance is, sometimes what happens is, when you are triggering this instance for a particular month, this particular Krishna might be on a leave. But we have defined these person names in the master data. And we are not able to use this person because at this point of time he is not available. But instance creation is a regular activity. So in order to support the regular activities who has not been maintained in the master data, we can use the change performer or reviewer option to change this particular persons when you are triggering the instance. And then next. Stuck up. Hari is having a question. So very little chance to get design validated by business users unless they involve in the design of these templates. No, it is not business users. You have to first understand the process and then you have to adopt the BPC process, because they might be doing process outside the system in a different manner. And it need not be the same process you follow in the BPC also. But you have to convince the process owner, not the individual end users. For each process, there will be a process owner who will be there from the client side. So you have to sit with that process owner and you have to explain how the BPC will perform, and you have to give a demo on that. Then only he will understand and he will support you in the process flow creation. So it's a mutual understanding activity, it needs to be done. Sandeep is having a question, can we change the reviewer after instance creation? No, we cannot. So at the time of instance creation only we can change. If you want, you can keep a team of reviewers so that anyone in the team, they can review and they can update, but not after the instance creation. Press next. You can start the process instance immediately. If you see here, if you select this checkbox, the process instance will be immediately triggered. Otherwise, sometimes what happens is the client budget user will create this process and it will create in the suspended status. Whenever he want to trigger, that time he will select this and he will start the process. Both the options is available. He can start immediately or press finish. It will create as a suspended status. See, automatically it is showing in the suspended status. If after some time he want to start this particular process, he will select and use the start button. Then it will be in the running process. So it will show on which date the process has been started. So it is in the running. Now, once it is in the running status, since I am the user who is working as a owner for activities 4 steps, if I go to my home screen, now refresh. See, budget process action required is showing blue. Total how many steps are there? 4 into 2. Why 2? Australia and China, and 4 steps. 4 into 2, 8 steps needs to be completed. Now if you select, details will be shown in the below screen. Now if you see, these are the activities I need to perform. Now if you see here, the status is showing open. That means these are the activities you can perform. The status which is showing pending is in the black color. Only the status open is in the blue color. Only these things you can perform, not these things. And you have to have this activity called to perform. Unless you have this activity called blue to perform and the blue indicator, you cannot work on this particular step. That is why it is showing next step as pending, and here the action required, it is showing black. And here if you see, the assign is in the first step it is showing only Krishna, and later on it is showing multiple assignees. Why the difference is, for the first step we said there is no reviewer required. That is why it is showing only single assign. And whereas from second step onwards we created reviewer. If you select that, now it is showing performer, reviewer. 2 persons are there, so that is why it is showing multiple assigns. Yeah, as I said, Sandeep, if we want to have more than one reviewer, we can create a team and we can assign the team instead of the user. Now, so when I want to perform my activity, so I am not uploading anything, I am just clicking on this activity in order to show you how the system will. I mean review more than once. I did not get you, Sandeep. Why you want to review more than once? You mean to say that suppose if the user has created, it will go to his say department manager. From there it will go to his division manager, like that. Then you create those as a steps. Yeah, then you create those as a steps. See, it is all designing perspective, how you want to design. Now I'll click on this data upload. It will open me the link through hyperlink. Now click on the activity. Now if you remember, the data manager upload screen will look like this. So by clicking of this, he need not go and select what he need to work on. It will automatically take him to the screen. He can just browse the file which he want to upload. And he can press upload. Press OK. Now once he uploaded the data, what is his related activity he can perform? He can perform the preview of data. So when I am having multiple activities, so this is the performing I need to do. This arrow indicates which activity I am doing. So what is the related activity? It is preview of data. So click on this. System will show you the data preview option. Okay. Once you are done, you can cancel. And if you see here, there is back button, return to activity workspace. If you click on that, system will automatically take you to the same workspace screen. Now open this, it will take you to the same screen. Once you have come back to the screen, here you are seeing the complete button. Why it is showing complete button, not the submit button? Because there is no reviewer required. If there is a reviewer, instead of complete it will show submit button, because once review is done by reviewer, then only the step is completed. So we will see the difference also in the second step. Now I am using complete. Now close this. Now come to my activities. Now if you see here, out of 8, 1 I have completed, 1 is showing complete. And then the second step, it is also the same thing for China region. So I am not doing the steps. I am not doing the upload of data, which is not my. At this point of time, I don't want to discuss on those steps. I want to show how the system activity performs. So I am just putting complete. Okay. Now the second step has been opened. Unless you complete first step, you cannot jump into the second step. Now I have multiple assignees here. Now we'll just click on the data import. Now if you see here, previously it is showing complete button, now it is showing submit button. The difference being there is a reviewer. Now select this. See, the system is automatically showing to the run package screen. If you remember, this is the package screen which we have selected. You can select the flat file through browse, press next, select the transformation file, how you want to overwrite, pre-aggregate. And then once you run the package, what is the thing which you will be doing? You will be viewing the package status, which is a related activity. Select package status. It will open the view status screen. See, it is the package which we have triggered today. Once you are done, you can go back to return to my activity workspace. Sandeep is having a question. How to restrict the user that he should select the correct and his authorized file only? See Sandeep, it is his individual duty to select which data he want to upload. You cannot control the user which data he can upload. It is the user who has to take the decision which data he want to upload. How can we control what data he want to upload? It cannot be possible in any system. If you are allowing a GL entry, so you are saying enter this, and you are not saying you will allow only to enter 100, 200. You are not giving the end user at all the list which he can enter and he can save the data. So it is up to his requirement which file he want to upload, which he should be aware of. Then submit. Now come here. Once it is submitted, now it is showing the completion status only 2/8. Why it is showing 2/8 is, once it is in the submitted status, the step will not be properly completed unless it is completed by the manager or reviewer with the review option. So I will submit this second step also, and I will log in into the manager screen, and I will show you one I will reject and one I will submit, how it will work. Second step also I submit. Now second step has been submitted. Third step I cannot able to enter anything, because unless you complete the step fully you cannot go to the next step. So I'll log off. Log in with manager user ID. Now go to my activities. See, he is having 6 steps. Why he is having only 6? Because first step, 2 sub-steps, it doesn't require reviewer. Only second step onwards we require reviewer. Once, if you see here, to review is only activated once they are submitting their activity. Now select this data input. Now for this particular screen, we have selected a web template directly created in the system. That is why for reviewer screen, it is showing a different template which we have created for the reviewer itself. Now if you see here, he has an option to either approve or reject. Once he approves, I'll close this activity. Now if you see, once he approves, then only it is changing it into the completed status, and if you see, 1 out of 6 activities is completed. Now if you log in into the user screen, it will show 3 out of 8 has been completed. Now in the review screen, for the second sub-step, I am rejecting it. I can do it from the open also, I can do it from here also. I'm just rejecting this. Now the status will show as a rejected status, and the next step will not open because it is not completed one sub-step. Now as I said, the manager, when he logs in, the process monitor owner, which I selected as Sai, he can log in and see the process monitor. What is the advantage of process monitor? He can see in which step the process is and what is the process status and all. Select. Now if you see, he can see the monitor, which are the steps that have been completed. 3 steps. Rejected is this one. Who is the person responsible? And then what is the pending step? This is the all activities and grouped by activity wise. You can see the template by action required wise also. See, these are all the actions that needs to be done, or by status, or by context. See, this is Australia, this is China. So he can see by entity which we have selected as a context. So in Australia entity, how many completed and how many pending. In China entity, how many completed, how many pending. So like this, he can view the process in different groupings, and he can see all activities, are only action required activities, or not completed activities. No, in this BPC system, they have not provided adding comments when they are rejecting. So what we will generally suggest, because of this disadvantage, is in the template which is viewing the template, there itself we will ask the manager to input the comments. Suppose if there are 100 items are there, 100 line items are there, because of 2 line items he is rejecting. In the comments column, we will say that rejected this line because of due to so reason. So rearrange it and send it back. That is the one which we provide it to the client, because that rejection comment option is not available presently in the BPC system. Yes. Hari is asking question, will rejection sends back message to the performer? Yes. When we, as we discussed, when we link our Outlook soft with BPC, automatically whenever there is an approval, whenever there is a rejection, whenever there is a submission, whenever there is an initiation, automatic emails will be triggered. Only thing is, even as Dinesh has asked correctly, even in forums also I have seen so many places people are asking rejection comment should be provided. But still SAP has not come up with any solution on that at present. So I don't know what will be the later statuses and all. At present it is not available. So since it is rejected, again the user has to perform his activity and again resubmit it. Then again a message will come to the manager to either approve or reject. So we will log into the performer screen. Performer is nothing but owner in BPC. No. How can you have both logins next to each other? Because it is through web base only. So with one login only you will be logging in. You cannot have multiple logins. Now what I will do, I'll go to my activities. Select. Now if you see 3 out of 8 has been completed. Now this is rejected. Reason is rejected status and you have to perform your activity. Now I am just putting it as submitted. And then log in into the manager screen and approve. Go to activities. So I am approving it from here. Up. Now here it is showing opened the next third step. But to perform it is not showing green color and this also it is not in the blue color. Why? Because see, before that data is being submitted, the manager cannot do his activity to perform. So once he does his activity, then only he can see the blue color button in the action required. So when we are discussing, we discussed there is an audit section also for the BPF. So go to audit. See, there is operations audit, instance audit and activity audit. Operation audit is nothing but what operations you have performed in creating the template. So this is the template which you created. Select the template. Select the process. And then press display report. See, I have activated the process, set lock, validated and created templates. So these are the different activities I have done when I am creating the template creation. That is called operations. And another is instance creation. So when I'm creating instance, what are all the activities I performed in the instance creation? So in this budget process, this is the instance. So on this instance, what are all the activities I performed? See, out of this instance, 4 has been completed, 2 are in progress and 2 are in pending. Out of total 8 steps, 50% has been completed with respect to this particular template instance. And then activity wise. See, this is the status completed, completed, completed. These 2 are open and these 2 are pending. This you can print it, refresh, export to a file. All those options are available. This is by each activity. That means each stepwise. So in audit, we have 3 things. By operations, that means at template level, and instance, that is at instance level, and then activity level. So go to my activities. So we have total 2 steps completed. Now log in from the performance screen. So go to activities. Mitesh, we will be covering only the BPF concept only. We are not going to cover any other additional things. Now the input data. So in the input data, if you select, now select the input form. Okay, so this is the input form, and then related option is you can enter the data and you can save the data. At present there is no data to save, so I am not really looking into this particular thing. I am just showing how it will open the template which has been designed. Now you can return back to and submit. Now select this and then submit. Now come back. Now go to activity screen. Select this input form. Now why I am opening this is when I am creating, I selected the same as reviewer. So they same as performer screen. That is why for performer also it is showing data input template. For reviewer also it is showing data input template because I selected same as performer, not a separate screen. So in order to show that difference, I have created as same as performer screen. Now if you see here, if you remember, we selected the time period, the currency should be euro and the product should be product A. And if you remember, time is showing 2015 Jan by default because when we are creating the instance, we created instance for category plan and time period is Jan 2015. So that is why these two are appearing from there. And whenever we are creating template, we select by default product should be product A and reporting currency should display as euro, which you can come and edit all those things, but by default these will appear. So return to active workspace. In order to show that activity, I have opened that particular template and then approve. Close the activity and approve this one also. Now log in into the user template, user screen and complete the fourth step. Log out. Now come to activities. Select the process. Now we have something called here fourth step we can perform. I'll just use reopen. If you see here, even though second and third steps are eligible to have reopen facility, but it is showing only the third step, because when I am reopening also I can reopen step by step only. So select, press reopen, press S. Previously it is in the open status, now it will become the delayed status due to the reopening of previous step. So those statuses are very important when you want to explain it to your client, what each status does and all. Now if you see the data import step, which is the second step, it is asking you to whether you want to reopen or not. I am not putting any reopen for this second step. I am just reopening the third step. Now once we reopen, the system for fourth step is showing delayed because we have completed the step. Again we reopen the step. That is why fourth step is delayed. And now if you reopen, it will ask you to reopen the second step. If you reopen the second step, the same process will follow. Third step will be in the delayed status and second step again will open. So just to show you how it will work, I have reopened this step and again we need to submit. And then approve. Go to activities, select, approve, approve. You can select whether you want to display ID, description ID and description in the context, this area. And in the process monitor, I just wanted to explain, if you select this, now if you see here, what is the action required, what is the activity I am doing, only those details are available. And even if I go to audit, so activity list, select, select, select and display report. Even here you are not able to see when the first step has been started and when it is completed. The dates you cannot able to see. When we go to the client place, the first problem we face using this option is so many clients are requesting is we don't have a time bound process. You are creating the process and you are allowing the process steps to be created in a sequential manner. Everything is fine, but unless you keep some SLA, like step 1 should be completed within 5 working days. If not, it needs to be automatically sent a auto reminder kind of a thing. If after auto reminder also nothing is working, it should automatically show as submitted. So those kind of options still SAP has not built in into the SAP BPC is not able to support that activities. But this is the requirements which we are getting from generally at all client places. There should be some SLA process also to be embedded into the business process flow, so that the process flow will be a complete thing including your SLA process. But still SAP has not provided any support or enhancement on that particular part. Due to that, we are not able to enforce any user to complete his activity within the stipulated period or not. Only manager can see the status and he can call to the particular person and he can talk to him. It's a manual process, but there is no automation with regard to the SLAs. Now log in into the Krishna user ID. So go to activities. Now I'm just performing this step. This is only a report. Like if you click on this, it will automatically open the report which we have selected. I created fourth step in order to show you how the reopen will work. So I'm just submitting this step. No need to log in into the template and all. Submit. So all the activities are completed from user point of view. Now log in with manager user ID. Go to activities. Select. Now he can select the work status and he can log the data. So generally what happens, we can combine the work status with business process flow in order to make your process in a more meaningful way, where you are logging the data along with the statuses, and along with that you are following a business process flow also. Change. you can automatically change from unlocked to approved and apply. See, now the data has been approved and it will be locked for the all users. So as per our normal work status process. So we are linking the BPF with workflow and locking facility. Approved. Hari is having a question. Is BPF a mandatory step for planning scenario to run? My question is, for an ad hoc planning requirement, we are making a quick planning scenario with all information handy and users, approvers, designers at once. Yeah, we can define. So BPF is only the process. When you're creating a process, you want to have a process owner, process manager, a review process and all. Through a systematic flow, you can keep it. Otherwise, so many people for small models, they will not create a BPF. Because only one user is responsible for those entire module. So they will not create a BPF unless there is an iterations required between one level to the next reviewer to the next reviewer. Otherwise, there is no point in creating a BPF. He himself will log in into that particular thing and he can complete his work. So BPF is an additional feature which is provided to the client, which you can do it or you can leave it and you can follow your normal data entry through normal procedure. And some clients will follow both the options. Wherever the small models are there, where only one person is responsible, they will not create a BPF. Wherever the responsibility is lying with different people, then they will create a BPF in order to control the process. Now approve. Now see, the entire BPF has been completed. Now if you go to the process monitor, as I said, whomever we are selecting as a process manager owner, only that person can do the finalization of this process. Once you completed all the steps, then only it will show waiting for finalization, and then you can use this finalize button. And it will not be available if you log in with your performer user ID. It will be only with the process monitor owner which has been defined in the template. We defined Sai as a process monitor owner who can see the process. He only can finalize it. Once it is finalized, then if you go to planning and consolidation administration screen, now if you go to process instance, see, it is showing finalized. Once it is finalized, you cannot start, you cannot suspend, you cannot change assignment, you cannot reset. Only thing is you can archive. Once it is finalized, it will show in the instance list. But generally by the administrator, we will ask him to archive this particular instance. Why? What is the reason? I will tell you. If you see here, in the activity screen, suppose I am responsible for say 5 models, 5 different planning models. So 5 planning processes will be shown one by one. And this is for 1 month. Now next month, they started one more process instance. So I'll select February month. So here is the person who can finalize the instance. Category. say 2015 February. Here I will say start immediately. It will not create as a suspended version. It will start immediately into the running status. Press finish or close. See, automatically it is showing in the running status, not in the suspended status. Now if you see here, now if you go into my activity screen and refresh, see it is showing another budget process also. Like that, if there are 5 or 6 budgeted process, assume that you are already created 3 months. So 18 list will be displaying here. So from the end user point of view, he want to see what is the present process I need to select. He has to see the context and then he has to select, which will be a cumbersome job. Once it number increases, it will be very difficult to find out what is the one which I need to work on. So for those purposes, what we will suggest for the administrator is whatever is the finalized one, which people will not open the instance and work on that particular instance. So go there and then archive it. Once you archive, it will be moved out of the activity screen. Now only what is the activities you need to perform, only that will be displayed, not the completed ones. So from the end user perspective, it will be very easy. This is the instance creation with respect to new instance creation and archiving the old instance. Dinesh is a question to link work status to BPF is a config of work status is a pre. Yeah, that is obvious, Dinesh. Unless you define work status, even if you link it, it will not have any effect if you are not defined the work status. Then there is no point. Can you copy the instance to create a new one? Can you copy step from other BPF? Dinesh, how can you copy step from another BPF? BPF will be created for one process flow. So how can you copy another process step into this particular process? Then you have not created your process flow properly. That is the final result. So there will not be anything like that. Suppose if I am working in FI system, can I copy it from MM system and put it in FI the materials? It is not like that. So if you are defining a process, then that means all the steps in the process you have to follow. You cannot, some steps you bring it from revenue budgeting, some steps you bring it from, if there is a requirement to bring the data from other things, you have to define it as a step. But in the middle, you cannot break the template. So this is with respect to the BPF creation and usage of BPF, combining your work status. So if you have any doubts, please let me know. Okay, next week we will discuss on the script logic. Even though the limited usage of scripting is possible in BPC, because SAP has not supporting the BPC scripting mode because of the performance issues, SAP always recommends use the ABAP logic and bring it into the scripting to execute that ABAP logic. But as such, they are not expanding the scope of BPC scripting because of very limited capabilities. But if somebody wants to, we will discuss how to use the scripting and how to create a data manager package through a custom scripting and all. If somebody wants to work on that and all, they can go through the BPC related keywords and they can develop themselves towards the script logic part. So we will be discussing the major script logic areas and how to use the script logic when we keep it in the default area, how to create a custom logic and how to assign a data manager package and how to use it. And we will discuss the syntax structure, how it will be, and what are all the additional things. There is a Fox coding also supported in the BPC scripting. So if somebody is already known with Fox coding and MDX, they can use their knowledge in order to build coding in the BPC system also. But SAP will suggest not to use those options because of the performance issues. Dinesh is having a question. What I meant was, if there are common steps in two business, even Dinesh, if there are common steps, we cannot copy it. We have to create as a step in this particular process. Is there a major difference in BPC 10 and 10.1 functionalities? Yes, Ganesh, there are a lot of major differences between 10 and 10.1. 10.1 is, I can say that if you know IP, it is more of IP integrated BPC system. 10 is totally different. In 10, whatever we are creating from the front end, it will be automatically created as a backend cubes and all. But in 10.1, the architecture itself is different. You have to create the cube first in your backend system and then activate it as a real-time cube and then activate it as a planning cube and then create planning layouts on the BW system and then use that planning layout to create the input templates in BPC. So totally the way you work in BPC 10 is totally different from 10.1. It starts with cube creation onwards. So if somebody is not well versed with BW, it is little difficult to handle because they have to start creating cubes from the backend itself. And architecturally also there are a lot of difference between 10.1 and 10. Yeah, adding to the Sandeep question, which I clearly said, you cannot say which file to upload. See, if I am, whatever the files which is created by the user, they have a right to upload the data. So which you cannot control because they are the persons who knows which file is having which data. How can I control through system? It cannot be possible. At least as a user, they should know which file they want to upload into the BPC system. Otherwise, I don't require that user at all. I myself can load the data and I can do as a reviewer. Then why I want a person to perform the activity there. I myself as a reviewer, I will automate that step and I will get the data and information ready. Any other questions? Yeah, there are a lot of difference, Dinesh, from 7.5 to 10 functionality, the screens and then some of the activities they are created. it is little better in 10.0, but still they can improve, as I said, with respect to using the SLA functionality and assigning it to each step what is the SLA period and all, but still 7.5 to 10 there is lot of improvement. Yeah, they can connect to the Solman. Whatever the blueprints you have created, you can create as a Solman structure, and then you can upload your blueprints, and whatever the master data you can link it to your Solman and all. That options is the same like other SAP modules. BPC also can be integrated to your Solman. For alerts, as I said, still it is not available, because since BPC itself doesn't have the alert capability, even if you integrate with Solman, I don't think you will get that alerts. Okay, any other questions? Okay, then we'll wrap up the session for today, and we'll meet in our next week class with the scripting part. And after the scripting, we'll be discussing on the consolidation part. Thank you, everyone.